Hey, what's going on YouTube? Hold up. Get something together in my headphones. All right, cool, cool. And let me confirm that okay. Make sure I'm using my microphone. All right, what's going on YouTube? Today I want to talk to you guys about a topic I already brought up before. Um, I want to bring up the haters, man. I want to talk about these haters today. Today I want to talk about the haters. I want to talk about let's make this a part two on that. Let's make this a part two. And I want to talk today about um identity, right? Really, I want to talk about more about identity, and I want to connect why it's important, that you know yourself, you know who you are, and I want to connect that to the people that, probably out there hating on you, probably out there hating on you right now. Um, and why it's so important that your identity exists in the world to shatter their mind, to shatter the philosophy, to shatter, you know, the concept that you will be defeated, you don't matter, um, and just to really turn a person around that will have the audacity to go against you in that way, you know, to try to oppose you in a sense, as if you were not the person that you are, a strong, capable knower of yourself. So today I want to talk about why these fools want to hate and why it's so important that you know you, why it's so important. Everybody today is spending so much time, um, you know, competing. They're spending so much time worried about the opportunity and trying to outdo the person right next to them. Uh, they feel like, you know, somebody over them is holding their opportunity, is holding their future, is holding their next steps in the palms of their hand. You know, they feel like that person might be their boss, that person might be their affiliate, it might be, you know, a figurehead in their life. You know, um, and I feel like, unfortunately, people allow, these perceptions to have power over them. You know, and the way they see it is, the way people see life is, if something has power over them, it should have power over you. You know, projection. Um, and really, excuse me there. And really, yeah, let's stay on projection for a minute, right? That they're going to feel like the things that they're obligated to and the things that govern their life and dictate their decision making should dictate your decision making. There's going to be a lot of people in life that feel that way. And they're going to, you know, go about using their energy to make sure, if they can, set your reality up so that that becomes true, you know, to basically bind you to the rules and to the laws that govern their life, you know. And I'm not talking about just a belief like a religion, something that's not necessarily spiritual, or just tradition, and in that sense. But I mean, like, something, in a more general sense, right? People want to um, see you live under the same order and rules because people feel like they're living their life a certain way for a reason, you know? Um, and that projection is real, right? So I find that projection is widespread, and no matter where you go, you're going to find certain standards that make sense, that help uh, maybe run and functional aspects of a community, of a society. Um, there may be things of dominance and figureheads that there may be certain facets to leadership and to figureheads that are of a certain ilk or community that may be necessary. What we're also going to see is, you know, a lot of personal beliefs, a lot of things that people do that are not necessarily a requirement, things that are not necessary. And some of the ways that people live their life, some of the things that they believe, are definitely going to be projected on you. And so, the average person, I find, wherever they are domiciling, wherever they're living at, they are living, within a set of standards, right? As pretty much we all do, understandably so, right? But there is a sense of control that, outside of mainstream culture, um, just in one's personal life, there's a certain level of control that you may cede, you may, you know, cede over to the other side, to the other party, the influencer in your life, you know, that might be saying something or, um, trying to convince you that, what they believe and the set of rules that they are following is a set standard for every person, and a lot of times I find people's individual experiences and their findings to, you know, set a narrower view on what people perceive as possible, right? Because what a person goes through and their experiences are real. And it would make sense for a person to maybe talk about or maybe expect, believe even, you know, what they experience could occur again. For a person to believe what they experience is maybe, what one should expect, right? Like maybe this is a dominant thing. Maybe this is a dominant theory, an occurrence, and a highly, you know, frequent thing. That's often the assumption. The assumption is often an affirmation of our challenges, it's just experiences, you know, uh, at all. Like all the experiences that we have, we assume are uh, the norm. And that may be a different conversation, you know. It may be something separate from this kind of focus that we're on, right? Talking about, these haters a little bit, part two, but yourself, and knowing yourself and knowing why and we may have to get into a separate conversation about why people kind of do all this, right? Why they put so much power in standards and belief systems. Um, but to stay focused on you, right? I think that there's going to be so many times, I know for myself, where I had to dig and I had to say, unfortunately, and people don't like to hear this, but sometimes people are wrong. Sometimes people are wrong about their theories and about their decisions. And I feel like life is full of contention. Life is full of struggle. It's full of strife. It's full of war. But you have to know when you are on a side of an issue because that um, side of an issue has a reason to be. It's valid, and oftentimes just maybe simple communication, maybe communication in general, is the answer or is the beginning step to resolution and conflict, you know. But conflict can't be resolved when we pretend that there is none. Um, to know how you feel about a situation and to believe in what you feel and then act on speaking after, right? To go through all these motions, to check in with yourself, recognize yourself, and then act with the intention to um, deal with, whatever could have been a fight, but maybe turned into a conversation, right? A situation that could have sprung violence turned into a um, civil resolution coming from an exchange of words. This is why we have court systems, judiciary systems, where people speak and use their ability to, discourse. Um, and in this, you can find representation of war, right? I know I'm going big here and it's seemingly a lot, but just hold on with me because it still all goes back to knowing yourself, right? Because, like I said, when you have a belief, when you know who you are and why you have that belief in whatever issue it is, right? Like whatever topic we're talking about, and you have a belief on it, right? That belief usually comes from life experience, your struggle, your contribution, whatever your bonds are to things. And, you know, that gets translated into an opinion. And that opinion, you're holding intention. You may like something or you may dislike something. The things that you like, you want to protect, and the things that you dislike, you may want to see gone away. You may want to smite those things and remove those things from your reality, from people's, reality. Change in the world allows us to transform the world to whatever we want it to be, right? Laws and rules shape and govern society so things can be the way we want them to be. You know, it's not just about money, it's about influence, it's about energy, in the sense of creative energy, in a sense of um, moral energy, like are people leaning towards those things that are fair, and right, or are we moving away from those things? You know, but without you know bleeding too much into um, abstraction, right? I want to stay focused a little bit on you know, when you know yourself, you're not afraid to tell somebody that they're wrong. When you know yourself, it's okay to tell somebody that they're wrong. When you know yourself, it's okay for you to be wrong. When you know yourself, it's okay to acknowledge shortcomings and to find development, even in the throes of criticism. If someone's right, they're right. If someone's wrong, they're wrong. You know, people that hate on you today are going to try to gaslight you. People that hate on you today are going to play a lot of tricks. That's fine. But I find that today, YouTube, that shit don't work. People trying that stuff, it don't work. And I find that these, the people that have the most self-doubt and the most internal beliefs about themselves, that are, weighing them down. I find that those people are trying to attach those weights to other things, hoping to get pulled up, hoping for someone to, you know, entertain, like exchanges with them, because any little exchange for someone like in a miserable position, it's going to be a a better experience for them fighting potentially with you than just going back to the misery. And the thing is, because of the internet, we understand we understand a lot of this stuff. But I find that, and the reason I want to kind of speak on it is that a lot of times, if you don't know yourself, you find yourself, even after being healed, entertaining like stuff that you've been defeated. You know what I mean? It's like if life is the game, if life is the video game and we playing, it's like we're going through chapters of the game. We're going through chapters of the game that we beat already. And I get it. We could go back and review and revisit, but what's the purpose? So when I'm talking out in this clip or this episode, it's just like when it comes to the haters, we got to now deal with them differently, because it was always going to be a new generation. They going to get together, new generation, like of these guys and gals and whatnot. But we can't spend eternity dealing with them. You're not going to spend your life dealing with them. Neither am I. So it's like we need a new approach for the haters. We confronted, right? This the hater. We confronted them. You point out the snake in the grass, but then you realize there's a lot of snakes in the grass. It's like you live in Florida. Every week is something coming out the swamp. I mean, I don't know if it's really like that, but I mean, you see, like you may have a different approach. Um, you may have a different approach when you realize the true nature of your problem. Like, hey, if I live next to the swamp, I'm gonna get an alligator every week. So let me just realize like when I need to deal with situation and when I need to maybe when I can realize when I don't. need to deal with said situations. I feel like the hater is like the alligator. Yeah. Do I need to deal with this person right now? And on what level do I need to deal with this person? Knowing yourself, I feel like is important there because what level of energy do you have to give to your solution? What level of energy do you have to put in to smite your enemy? And by, smiting your enemy, it could be silencing your enemy. Okay, we done with the talking now. I'm going to bring something up and it's going to silence the talk. Or it might be exposure. Usually it's the same kind of thing, various forms of the same thing, you know, exposing the enemy, right? So the weakling that they are, and we mean mentally weak, right? Because somebody that's living to project onto another able, you know, functioning, living, breathing, like entity, like you have all of life, all the challenges of life, and for you to um shift focus like that, basically you decided to about face on life so that you can focus on another, because at that point you decided to not be bold, to not confront the challenge of life itself. That's really one of the first steps, is to see your problems and to then confront those problems. So I find, the people that are projecting the most, that have that have their ideas that they try to apply to everybody else. And there's a lot of individuals that, again, it's a lot of these, y'all can attest. Um, I find that they don't have a walk of life that is pulling on enough information, right? They have a walk of life that isn't diverse enough where they could see different laws applied, right? Different life laws applied to different lifestyles. I won't even say people, because we all just kind of the same in a lot of ways as human beings, right? Until we start making those decisions. We start making those decisions, and you have some people, they do this and they do that. Some people, they invest, and some people you know, they um invent, right? Then other people, they invest in what the people, like, you see what I mean? Like, what choices are you making? What choices are other people making relative to you? You know, some of us participate in the stock market, we're buying and selling things. So, right, that's where I'm coming from. Uh, we talk about this, you know, this concept of social, social psychology, and not just why haters hate, but the way people function, right? Because it's about people, right? And some of them are gonna hate, some of them aren't. Some of them gonna show love, and for that we do appreciate. But um, part two on dealing with the haters, on dealing with you know, those that oppose. Um, and I made this video for you guys, the audience, but I also made this video for myself, you know. Um, on some journal shit, on some, you know, it's my notebook, you know. YouTube my notebook, you dig? Like I could come back and unless I'm sharing it with y'all, you know. The people gonna sit up and kind of like I talked about my last video, like there's a lot of professional, and when I say professionals, don't take it like a suit and tie, but take it like experts. Like when I say pros, professionals. But there's a lot of professionals online, especially on, just everywhere. I'm not even going to go platform like that, platform specific, but it's a lot of professionals, a lot of pros, right? Professionals that they kind of speak and behave as though like they are experts in a given area, but then you realize like, this person's not necessarily an expert. They just share, they happen to share a side and an opinion that maybe is unique. You know what I mean? And I just feel like today, because of the access of the internet, so many of us do research, and we can consider ourselves researchers in that way. But just because we're doing research on some given topic doesn't all of a sudden make us the expert in that topic. And so I feel like that is one flaw um that I sense we have as people coming from, you know, and we come at it from both angles, but from social media, right? I feel like the competition that people feel on the side of social media, you know what I mean, makes them jump into this role of being an expert when that's not actually the case for them. That's not true for everyone, you know. And again, not platform specific or anything. And I would say what makes a person jump in unwarranted, that is kind of like the words, the vernacular, and a lot of times the demeanor. People will put on a suit, but it's like they haven't written on the subject. They haven't given, the earnest, what we might think is an earnest contribution to warrant that of an expert kind of vibe, you know? And not to say like, your dress makes you that, but hopefully you understand what I'm getting at. Just not going to bring you guys this idea that, um, I have all these answers, but really I have ideas, you know. And if I feel like there's some answers there, then I'll compile that with some more research and claims based in something that I could reference back for you, like a book, things like that, proper conversations. But I'm glad that I don't have to because I can kind of just get you this information a lot faster, right? I feel like, authors are great, but when they sit and they write their books, it takes some time. And I'm glad I can just make these vids, I can make these videos for you guys, and I don't have to necessarily go write 7 books on these subjects. But maybe one day we will come up with we'll write some things and we'll turn things novel. But for now, we're just hitting these conversations and expanding on them, as we go through. And we'll do some more other things too. Definitely do some fun things. But back to the conversation at play. Um and really just, my final things on this part of it, you know, the people that are going to feel the most that you should be, you know, the way that they believe. I feel like those people are going to struggle the most right now going into or beyond 2025 and into the future, you know. So many things changing, Um, so much sensitivity in the world, um, to objection. Like I said, when you tell someone that they're wrong, or rather, um, when you go around someone's instruction, or you feel like, okay, hey, this isn't the best method, and I'm gonna give, my alternative. Don't give an alternative. Don't have the audacity to actually have an idea that will then, I guess, oppose that person's original idea. Like, don't happen to have a foundation of which now then the other person can attack, because like I said, they hate us. They hate us. So they're gonna attack a lot of times, right? If they're legitly one, they're gonna attack your position, your plan, and your, philosophy on whatever the subject is, whatever you're talking to them about, like whatever comes from you, right? A lot of times, if you reference something, they will attack that too sometimes. But 9 times out of 10, when you uh, contribute or project some thought into the ether, they're going to have a disagreement, or, you know, they're just not going to rock with it. Like, that's really like a big sign, I feel like, of them guys, of them people, them hating ass people. Like, they're not going to, really have much wherewithal for, your creative um mindset. They're going to constantly bring things up that are probably reminiscent of, what you have talked about, or things that you're like leaning towards already, you know, because the competition that they feel that they have to uphold, like seeing you lose, right? Whether that's by sabotage or trying to outgrow you, which is the other thing, that we've become familiar with too. Um, and I just feel like, having all this laid out on the table, the only thing left that a person really could bring to the situation is knowing that, okay, a lot of these people aren't friends. It's kind of like friend to foe. A lot of them are foes. A lot of them are foes. And trying to, let me not say that. Let me bring it back to, okay, again, not not being 100% in conviction of your plan, your philosophy, you know what I mean? Like your personhood will possibly leave an opening for some of these types of people, you know, because, and I say this a little slow. I say this part a little slower because it's really deep. Like, when, like, let's say somebody hating on you over a 7 year period. Let's say somebody hating on you over a 10, 15-year period. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking about just every day come by. Like, we talking, you might have those life rivals, really rivals. When I'm saying hater, really a lot of the times rivals. But I don't. I include like the everyday. I include the not moment to moment, but like the temporary foe. Like you ever had those temporary enemies, like somebody come into the office or it's work situation and it's temporary, or you dealing with somebody that's around you, maybe your relationship and it's personally, or you have that friend who brings another friend, but you don't know this friend of a friend, and they have issue with you, and that's another personal. But whatever it is, right? Like whatever it is, um, I find that the hater is a rival a lot of the times. Like if it's not a quick thing, and don't let you like a lot of times you think, oh, I'm not gonna see this person no more, or I'm glad that's over. And then like unfortunately, um, these people they know how to be in different circles, and then you really have to make your efforts to move in a place of peace, move in a wise way away from you know but the efforts that are made um, from opposers, from these haters, these rivals, uh, and I feel like the way that it affects us to in a longevity, right, over a longer duration, can leave us sometimes repeating things that we realize we had long since solved. We had long since bound and thrown in a cage, been defeated, been defeated. But, you know, um, we end up going back to play that same level, realizing, wait, I got some more stuff I needed to go do. I didn't even finish the game yet. I'm playing. We realize, you know, we're going to these places sometimes because we're triggered um by you know, different things, different things, negative things people are contributing. Especially these individuals that sometimes study and sometimes know, or sometimes just naturally have a way, you know, of really getting under that skin. And so I find that, the solution is definitely not going to be in a like a head first um head first aggressive confrontation. It is really going to be the opposite. It's really going to be the opposite. You know, the same way when we first dealt with these guys, we had to we had to look inside ourselves and say, okay, let me get from around the hater. Let me get from around. Let me know enough about myself to realize, like, why am I here? A lot of us have that why am I here realization. Um, but then, when somebody gets under your skin, or somebody, they just annoy you, or you just feel how you feel. Um, you're not asking why am I here? You know why. Because when you're triggered, the thing is, why you are. You know why. Like it's not like you're like, yo, I'm triggered. Somebody be like, why? Yo, because you see what they did. They did this. They did that. But then you think about it, you know, and it's like only way to really deal with, you know, these folk would be to go through the same process again, but more deeply. Like, okay, I know, like, generally, like, who I am and, okay, why this gets me, you know, why I feel a certain way on this subject and topic or reaction. Sometimes they violate, and it's like, yeah, this is my reaction because I'm not about to deal with this violation, right? Um, and I don't think it's a specific question, like, why am I here? I think it's just more of a deeper introspection, right? I don't even think there's a one answer fit to it. Like, I think that when we are revisiting um things that we don't like when it comes to people that we don't like or that don't like us, right? When it comes to the haters, I feel like the only way the only way to deal with them is to deal with ourselves. You know, I've had times where I meditated and I thought about it, like real deeply, like, okay, I've dealt with this person. I know they have some feelings toward me. That's really, you know, I can't call this person a friend. You know, this person, they've had projections, they have their ideas, they theory on me. They haven't absolutely violated me in the sense where it's like it's progressed up to a level of confrontation where we physically, but more of like a lot of um I would say a lot of low grade energy, right? I'll say that a lot of low grade energy. And I would say that's about 90% of people that's gonna be your rival and your hater. Like, and I find that when I dealt with myself, I was able to come at these people or these situations. I'll call them situations as well. Um, because it's really the beliefs. Like, I'll come at these people sometimes with a an olive, like, and that's not always the response that is the best, right? I find sometimes confusion can, um, you know, be a telltale, right? Like, the same way I'm saying we have to stay resolute in what we believe, right? As human beings, as leaders. And then, you have your hater that's pulling from you and that detracting. Um, and at the same time, you have your mission that you're like, nah, this is my mission. Like, my mission is to help. Might be to help people. It might be to get up on the internet and speak, um, things like that. And it's like, imagine if you let your hater come and he do something, he's triggering you, and now you're doing things that's pulling away from, right, the detraction, the you're now going back and forth with that person. You're now, you know, not able to transcend the issues, right? Like, you can't take the issue with your hater and now turn it into progress for helping people. Your mission, right? That was your mission. You now have the detractor now, even though you dealing with them. Yeah, you whooping on them verbally, and whatnot. You beating them in a debate. You spanking them online. You doing all that stuff. But now you're off your path. You're off your beaten path of your mission. Like I feel like that, and the thing is, like people speak on that here on these platforms. Like the idea that you can definitely kind of move off your path, and a lot of times it's in relationship to these sorts of people, and there's all sort of names and places that we put them in to understand the context of some of these conversations, right? Like we said, social psychology and conversations on getting better and doing better, right? But as far as knowing thyself, knowing yourself, right? I feel like that's a self realization that doesn't really deal with the other person as far as like you talking to them, but it deals with meditation in that you are um recommitting to yourself, like the way people recommit to their marriage with their relationship, like to recommit to oneself. I feel like is the spell that breaks the hold on a lot of that triggering that comes from these haters when these people feel like they got you and they pinpointing something. It's not that you win because you can suppress them and beat them, you know, with words and with what you have, but you lose in that you even went for the distraction. You lost because you lost sight of the path, beaten path you were on. You know what I mean? And again, that's been talked about depending on, what areas and circles you're floating on online. But I wanted to talk about that and just connect that back to, you know, the answer that I found that I feel like truly is, I would say, the only answer to it, in my opinion, humbly, is that you know, you have to go inside yourself. You have to go inside yourself when there is um when there's a great projection, when there's a great projection of beliefs of another, of a hating ass person's beliefs or a hating ass person's, you know, energy. They when they have a way of finally confronting, right? And confrontation can come in many forms. It doesn't have to be a person. A person could be with you on the phone, and you might think, well, I can hang up my phone, but you might have, you might be speaking with somebody who you have a long-term relationship with, like a friend or a family. You know what I mean? Like again, there is room in all of our lives for people to kind of get in there, get in our lives, end up on our phone lines, speaking to us maybe for longer than they should be. And it's not always the answer to cut someone off, right? On the on in communication methods, or but rather to navigate the nuances of a relationship, right? Like as you would any. And there's boundaries, you know, but knowing yourself is about like the beliefs, where like, okay, something might not be violating a boundary, but it's not in line with the beliefs, right? Because I find like the boundaries are like the hard red lines, And then you have your beliefs, which is like everything inside of it. You know what I mean? It's like a person can respectfully tell you something that, let me not say respectfully, but like, but maybe, yeah, like a person can with a certain level of decency kind of put you down. And it might not cross these boundaries. So you think, but you may realize like, wait, I'm getting some hate. I'm getting some projection that isn't helpful. Um, so I just wanted to get at that. And I want to have a nice, duration, nice length to expounding on this because I feel like, you know, man, there's haters every day. So we definitely need to like be able to, have breakdowns on that whenever we can, um in these moments when I have, the ideas flowing on that subject. Um, because as you guys see, there's kind of, a couple different ideas, a couple different subjects I got going. Uh, and I plan to keep going, working my way through other ideas. I have other ideas on science and of course society. Um, yeah, there's some more things too that I want to talk about, even outside of my channel. There'll be some more things eventually in the future. I'm kind of, planning for the long haul. But I'm glad you guys enjoying these. If you are, um, just gonna say this video. Don't worry about commenting, man. Just let me know what you um think on maybe the next video, right? Because this one, I just wanted to kind of hit you guys with, you know, some general encouragement if you're dealing with people that, have thoughts and opinions um, on your life. If you're dealing with people that have uh that oppose you. You know what I mean? Like people that just like yeah, I could tell you they don't like me. I don't know why they don't like me, but they always remind me why they don't. They always remind me they don't like me. They never, say hi to me like that type, right? Because you got different type. You got different type, and I just, we hear like, it's different type of these, individuals. Um, I find that life is a continuous thing. Like the same social issues you dealt with in high school, you having them at some level, you get to college. You having them some level beyond, you get to um, a workplace, your office, and navigating your career. Um, you're gonna experience that same thing. The good things that you experience, you're gonna experience, maybe in slightly different ways, but you know as things repeat, we grow, but they do repeat. They do repeat. Um, People that have these energies, these disdains for you know the star of the show. That's you. And it's like all these conversations that people have, all these conversations that people are having, right, about things like love, about things like relationship, like you know we should be able to have more than one conversation about how to deal with the challenges of being a leader, with the challenges of dealing with people, right? Because most human beings can just go in the closet somewhere and stay and hide from society, hide from, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who's gonna hate on you. You don't know who's gonna be a hater. You don't know who's gonna be a next rival. Sometimes it's the 14-year, 7-year, 3-year, 6-month thing, and you know that but how do you know 6 months from now that from now on to then, this person is not gonna like me? You know what I mean? We have to be prepared for the challenges of life. Um, but at the end of the day, it's really not about the other party. It's really not about the them factor, when we're trying to find the solutions to dealing with, dealing with them. Um, we have to try to find the answers in shifting our lifestyle, you know, and we have to try to find the answers in, excuse me, I think even more important than that, really doubling down on our beliefs and knowing that, who you are, which I feel like is a lot of what you believe, you know, to be worthy of, what's the word I'm looking for? Solidifying. So what I mean by that is you got things that you believe, you got things inside of you, ideas, right? Like look into them, right? Like solidify them. You dig? Challenge them. I'm not saying that like you're a certain type of way and just like don't um do anything different. I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying like sometimes you can see where a person wasn't right about something, they were wrong, like they were inaccurate, right? Like you had a method to, do something and you try someone else's method and it didn't work. And you're like, man, I should have went with my method. Like where there's clear distinction, right? I'm not talking about just doubling down on yourself and your beliefs when you clearly have shown like performance problems or because in that way, what I'm saying would still apply. Like you'll have to know yourself, right? And I'm glad I brought that up, right? Because you could have a situation where your performance is actually poor, you know, but and as men, we kind of notice like we gotta encourage each other, or if you want to see if you're a man and you see another man and he's performing, his performance is not as high as it could be, and you want some ability to contribute in the matter, you gotta encourage them, right? The same way if you were feeling weak in a moment, right? The best thing that somebody could do is give you that encouragement, right? It's about knowing ourselves. Um, and I say that again, not just from a position of power, but from any position of weakness. If we're not recognizing where we actually are weak in a moment that we are weak, then we're not actually knowing ourselves. And so, it's easy for me to say that in this video, but it's harder for you the person, the superstar, to go and behave in this way, um, to produce the best outcome for yourself. The hardest part is going to be, um, and I say this with myself included, is going to be for us to decide to do these things. But it's something I've been reflecting on. It's something I definitely been, attempting to stay. Uh, I will find, I'm doing a pretty good job, but it's important to review. It's important to reflect. So, I reflect for my own purposes, but I share with you guys, because I feel like that's important. You know, sometimes you have to share deep thoughts like this, right? Everybody just wants to jump on a trend Everybody just wants to highlight some popular person or something, go viral. Um, they don't want to they don't want to do the work. Um, some of them do, but a lot of people, they're here 1 minute, gone the next. Um, and that might be all right, you know. There's some of that energy I understand, and I even agree. Like, I can't give all of myself all the time. It's almost nothing. Like, it's to me, like, life is all about balance. Like, but at the same time, you know, uh, there's definitely some crazy, activities that I feel like going on the internet just because people are too prepared for anything. Maybe not enough boundaries there, you know. But yeah, I feel like I said it all. I feel like I said it all. So that's pretty much it, YouTube. Glad you guys came back around to watch the next video. Next video, we taking it back outside. The season is changing, so yeah, it's gonna be a little different. I'm pretty sure. I might throw on a jacket or something. It's not quite summer yet, but um, probably have a couple. Yeah, we'll have a couple videos before summer. Um, it's gonna be pretty hot then. Actually, it's gonna be quite different. But yeah, probably come out with another vid. Give it like a day or two. YouTube. I've really been thinking about y'all. I really been thinking about how frequently I'm doing this. Um, again, like I said, I got a lot more to say to you guys. I want to put things in a context. I want to be logical in some of what I'm saying. I don't want to jump like yo. Matter of fact, like, so we're gonna take it, at a pace. But we might hit a few notches, but it'll be gradually over time. Um, but I think, for the spring season, we definitely gonna be putting out some more episodes, at least like one a week, type vibes. Like, then summertime, really try to just hold consistent at the very least. I'm not gonna jump and, say one a day or something crazy, right? But try to hold that like one a week, because consistency. Gotta know thyself. Gotta know ourselves. Um, and especially when haters they gonna do that. They gonna hate on you, whether you're doing good or bad. You're like, you know, I'm doing bad. Why y'all hate? Like, I'm already doing bad. Like, nah, you doing bad. They want to highlight it. They want to put your scoreboard up. They want to put your picture card up, your picture frame with your F. Like, but then like you doing good. You're like, yo, I'm doing good. They still throwing dirt on your name. So um, hopefully you feeling understood. Hopefully you feeling heard. If that's something you care about. Um, hopefully what I'm saying is making sense, about, again, really just like not factoring people so much into your plans and idea of how you perceive in the situation, right? Of somebody being in the way of your progress, right? Like, because we could call a spade a spade. Like, we could say, like, yeah, a person is in the way, but we know and can rely on I don't know, I'm rehashing a bit, but we know and can rely on our own meditation, our own reflection, right, and thought to get past this this momentary impasse, you know, rather than going with the fighter perspective, if you would, where we may not physically engage, but we go with the confrontation, right? I think again the balance, right? Even wars, like it's not always about just going straight into it. There's so many angles we, could come from. So by the time it's done, you've done so many angles that now it's its own form of process. It's its own solution. You done found a way to not just avoid somebody, right? Which is maybe like a first step, but like you found so many ways to stay busy. You found so many ways to um maybe even deal with a person uh through remote, through third party, through filters and arrangements where you no longer feel your pain at all. All of that unlocks. Um, because if we try to go about doing things in a way that actually doesn't fit for us, it, it could leave us just as, bad, I would say, to say it simply. Right. Leave us doing just as bad. If you decided to take the avenue of saying, okay, and I've seen this before in life too, where you're going to um, not confront a person, but maybe you're going to, and let's say you decide to not stay busy, but you're going to avoid, and it's not appropriate. Well, if you're not really like reviewing yourself, thinking about what you need, you know, going through that phase, you skip right over to just trying to do something, but it's not for you. Now you've locked yourself into some obligation or some activity to try to solve it, but it's not, right? You try to get around the embarrassment, but people still end up seeing you how you didn't want, or you know like what is the actual answer to um this question, this part two on people disliking, having disdain for you. It's general hate. Like it has to be within you. It has to be within you. Because the minute that person gets removed, eventually down the line, and you already know there's going to be another person that's going to take their place. And that's going to be like, wait a minute, this person is way too much this way or that way. It's just what humans are prone to do, you know, and understanding what you can do for yourself, for the situation, is really all you can do. Yeah, so I hope that that's heard, and I think that'll help some people. I could see that helping so many people, that message, that idea. So, leaving you with that for now. All right, YouTube, we did it again, and we're going to do another one soon. It's coming up. Stay tuned.